Summer is almost upon us. The roses are crawling out from under stones out there, and my boat up on the Hard is starting to look spick and span. Andy fouling this weekend, last coat of varnish on the capping, and she's ready to go back in. I can't wait actually. We're going to cruise the channel this summer, that's the plan. Most summers, Ros and I take off for points far away, Lofoten Islands, Spain, Scotland, somewhere relatively exotic for the likes of us. But this year we're going to have a low stress time, no pressing on this year. We're just going to go maybe as far as Ushant down in the west, and then as far as Dunkirk in the east. That's the whole of the English Channel, and of course the English side as well. Perhaps we'll go down to the Scilly Isles. Lovely. And if we're really feeling ambitious, we'll just take a little detour at the top end there and go up to Holland for a little holiday. 3 months we'll be away, so we won't always be able to do this blog on a Friday then. So if it doesn't happen, don't worry, because it'll happen any time as soon as we can get Wi-Fi. If you subscribe, press the subscribe button. It doesn't cost anything. That always used to put me off. Did it put you off? I don't know what it meant really. I thought I had to pay money, but you don't. It's free. It just means that you get a notification when something comes up on the channel. So go with that if you fancy it. It all reminds me of the first summer cruise I ever made in the English Channel. It was 1971. And I'd just bought a little tiny boat. It was a sweet boat, built in 1930, a little wooden boat. And I was all squared away at 5 o'clock on a summer's morning, ready to go. Sitting in the cockpit having my cup of tea, and the tide was just flooding past the boat. And who should come downriver but Eddie Gillett, the local fisherman. Eddie was a proper chap. He was the last of the Solent fisherman yacht hands from the 1930s. He'd sailed on the J-class with the Quality. And he knew what he didn't know about sailing wasn't worth knowing actually, but what he did now was drive a fishing boat. And he said to me, "Where are you bound, Nipper?" And I said, "Well, I thought I'd go to Weymouth, Eddie, make a nice early start, because it's 50 miles. He said, "It is that." He said, "And if I was you, I'd go right back to bed now and stay there till 11 o'clock. I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, the tide's just started to flood. You'll get down to Colshot Spit, it'll be flooding hard against you, and you'll sail on the spot for 4 hours, tacking against this southwest wind." I said, "But you're going out, Eddie." He said, "Yeah, but I've got 85 horsepower in here." He said, "It's a different world, mate." He said, "Go back to bed. You've got a nice wife down there. I'd be in there if I was you." Well, of course, being a nipper, I took no notice. Off I went, and he was absolutely right. I sailed on the spot for 4 hours off Colshot Spit. What a mug. But these days, I've learnt a bit of sense as I've got older. I wait for the tide when I can, because I know that I can't change it. There's nothing I'm going to be able to do. As Eddie said, if the tide's flooding up the West Solent, the tide's flooding up the West Solent, boy, and there's nothing you or me or anybody else can do about it. You just have to live with it. So this year, I'm not going to do even much motoring against the tide. I've got 7 knots under power if I want it. But what's the fun of doing 7 knots with 3.5 knots of tide under you, against you, and doing 3.5 through the water? It's not nice, it's stressful. If you wait, you get 10 knots over the ground and you're really going places. It's just the more seaman-like thing to do. It's working with nature, not fighting it. So, well, insofar as I'm able, that's the plan this summer. I'm going to anchor on the foul tides just like the sailing ships used to do, because they couldn't beat against the tide. They'd no hope. They were going to go backwards. So they did what they called tiding it down the channel. They tided it down on the ebb, and when the flood started, they dropped the pick and waited. And then 6 hours later, after having had a good sleep, up with the pick and off they went again. There you go. It makes me think of I'm trying to think, it was a prayer. Yeah, a prayer that the preacher gave out in the chapel that my parents used to take me to on Heaton Moor, south of Manchester, back in the 1950s and the 60s. And I remember this so well because it really struck me at the time. The chap stood up there in a pulpit and he said, "Listen to this," he said. He was talking about things that wanted changing, but that maybe weren't going to be that easy. And he said, "Lord, give me the strength and the courage to change those things which can be changed. And please give me the forbearance and the patience to deal with the things that I cannot change. And above all things, give me the wisdom to see the difference between the two." It's like a seaman's charter, isn't it?